everybody. Welcome to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking with Robin Hills, who's calling in from the UK. Robin, it's great to connect with you. And I'm looking forward to talking with you about your company, Ei4Change. And you are the CEO of this company, and you are an emotional intelligence trainer. And I'm really looking forward to talking about emotional intelligence. I think it is something that AI cannot compete with, right? How are we paying attention to the nuances of how we work on ourselves and how we grow other people and how we make a real impact in the world? Really kind of zooming in on emotional intelligence, I think it's a great topic and one of my favorites. Before we get started, I'm a business coach, and I work with successful people all over the globe and talk to them about, their success and where they're stuck and get them unstuck. And so I always like to talk and get things started, Robin, where, what's a recent area in your business where you've been stuck, and how did you get unstuck?
Well, I often get stuck. I think that one of the big issues that I've got is a lot of people, when I'm engaging with them, don't listen. And whilst I try very, very hard to communicate as succinctly and as clearly as I possibly can, I've come to realize that people have selective listening. So they kind of pick up on the bits of the message that they want to pick up on, and they completely ignore everything else. So what I need to do is to perhaps be a little bit more tolerant of people when they're not listening as clearly and as effectively as they could or should be.
Right. You know what my secret to that, Robin, is anytime I'm most every time I'm talking, for sure, when I'm doing keynotes and things of that nature, I really do my best to follow the script of tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you're going to tell them. If they miss it the first time or the second time, they get it during the wrap up. All right. So let's dive into you, and let's dive into emotional intelligence. For those who are listening right now, Robin, who don't know what emotional intelligence is, EQ, define a little bit about EQ versus IQ.
Great question, and a great place to start. Emotional intelligence, put very, very simply, is the way in which you combine your thinking with your feelings in order to make good decisions and build up authentic relationships. That's it. Now, we get a degree of success and we start our careers out based on our IQ, our intellect, our cognitive intelligence. But the success that comes from our work and what underpins our performance is our emotional intelligence. It's the relationships that we build. It's the impact that we have on people. It's the way that we work with our feelings. And it's the way in which we work with other people's feelings and their emotions.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, combining thinking and feeling. And so there's kind of the line between thinking and feeling, right? And so to make good decisions. And so, define that a little bit more, right? So what's the formula from your perspective as an emotional intelligence trainer, when to kind of take the thinking, paying attention with intention to your feeling, to actually then maybe pause to get to a decision? Kind of break down the formula a little bit for us.
To a certain extent, I wouldn't say that there is a line, because we can't make decisions without an emotion underpinning that decision. A basic decision as to what color shirt am I going to wear, is it going to be a blue one or is it going to be a white one, is based on emotions. And it's been found that people who have had part of their brain damaged through an accident or through genetics, who just cannot make a decision because the emotional part of their brain has become so severely damaged that they just cannot engage with the world in such a way that they can say, yeah, I feel good about a blue one today, so that's what I'm going to wear.
Right. That's why I wear a black t-shirt or a sweatshirt every single day for the last 3+ years.
But then it becomes a part of your brand, doesn't it? It becomes an expectation around
Right.
what people see of you, and it makes you feel good.
You're right. It takes all the thinking out of it. But I want to kind of continually dive into emotions, and because I think, emotions can make it or they can break it. And so, how and when do you leave your emotions at the door? And how do you kind of use how do you get your emotions to work for you in a positive way, so you can respond versus react?
Sure. Firstly, I've just got to get rid of this idea that you leave your emotions at the door, or you leave them in the trunk of your car, or you leave them at home. You don't. You take your emotions around with you all the time. And you will have to really work hard with your emotions and recognize your emotions, and understand the fact that if you're not in the right place to make a decision, you don't make the decision, or you defer the decision, or you make a decision knowing it's not going to be the best one that it can be. Am I emotionally intelligent? That's a very interesting question. If I was to say, "Oh, yes, I am," it's rather arrogant and self-conceited and suggests that there's no room for improvement. I'm continually learning. But
Yeah.
if I answer no, what am I doing talking about emotional intelligence? It depends. There are certain circumstances when I go in to speak with somebody, I go make a decision, and I come out of it and think, yes, that was good. I really am pleased with the outcome that I've got here. And then there are going to be times, because I'm human, that I completely screw up.
Yeah.
And I know that it is not a good time for me to make a decision when I'm tired. It's not a good time for me to make a decision when I'm hungry. It's not a good time for me to make a decision when I'm not feeling well. I'm not at my emotionally best. So I either defer, or I apologize and say, look, I don't feel I can make a good decision now. Let's go with it and live with it if that's what's needed.
Yeah. Talk about the courage to say that. I think sometimes to be able to be centered and say, you know what, I'm not in a space to make this decision right now. Because I think sometimes people do it because they maybe feel the pressure. And
Yeah.
so kind of rewind that a little bit, because I think that's a really important point.
Well, I think we've just got to recognize that there are going to be some times when you feel the pressure and you feel that you just can't say it. The circumstances may be that the person that you're interacting with is so assertive or so confident, and they need a quick decision from you, that you've just got to kind of make a decision, but get to know the person that you're interacting with before you get into that space.
Yeah.
Find out a little bit about them, do a bit of research, find out, you know, how you're likely to respond to them, and go in with your eyes open rather than your eyes closed. Don't wing
Yeah.
it.
Let's talk a little bit about, I love talking about decision making, but let's talk about interpersonal skills and self awareness and mindfulness as to, when to kind of make space for emotional intelligence. I think some people, they're not, they don't. I know you've defined it in a beautiful way, but how do they really tap into their own emotional intelligence and use it on a consistent basis to grow personally as well as professionally?
Well, you've actually almost defined emotional intelligence at a deeper level by talking about self awareness. If we look at emotional intelligence around being aware of yourself, aware of your skills, your capabilities, what gets in the way, what your liabilities are, then that's a very good start. And that would then lead into awareness of other people, and through empathy, through understanding other people's feelings, thoughts, and emotions, you can get a better understanding of how they're likely to react, what they need. And you can then utilize your social skills in order to build up those authentic relationships we've been talking about.
Yeah.
But within that, there is space for emotions, and AI cannot do emotions. Therefore, AI will make different decisions. And I don't think we will ever see a time when AI will take over from human interaction and human intervention.
Yeah.
AI does not have emotions, therefore AI cannot empathize, and AI does not have what you and I have got in our heads, which is the most wonderful,
Right.
the most wonderful instrument in the known universe, and that's our brain.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Let's talk about your book. You have a book, The Authority Guide to Emotional Intelligence Resilience in Business. What's the reader going to get from that book? A couple highlights.
They'll get some understanding around how their emotional intelligence leads to resilience. Let me just define what resilience means. A lot of people talk about it being the ability to bounce back, and I think that's a little bit insulting. I think resilience is a bit deeper than that. It's an ability to be very, very focused on a set of goals which are meaningful, and having a clear idea as to where you're going, what it is that you want to do, underpinned by your values, and having the creativity and flexibility to adapt around circumstances as they unfold. We may not like many of these circumstances, but heck, that's the reality. We're going to have to live with it. So, how can you make the best of the opportunities that are available to you?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And then, when it comes to emotional intelligence, for those who, let's say, have never really heard of emotional intelligence, what are the first couple of things that they can do as they're listening to this? They can download your book and they can this, but what's a routine that they can kind of, begin to, from your perspective as a trainer, training people who are new to this and experienced in this, how can they begin to kind of take that route, the emotional intelligence training for themselves and routine to kind of incorporate it into their lives?
Can I give you an example of a training exercise that I run on my emotional intelligence courses?
Please.
And last week I was in Washington, D.C., running a training course on emotional intelligence for CEOs and senior executives, board members from banks and from various other organizations they happen to come from Central and Eastern Africa. And one of the exercises that I run is to get them to pick their mobile phone up and to text three people and to say to these three people, I'm in a training course on emotional intelligence. Can you give me some insights around what you like and what you value about me? And we just sit and wait for the text to come in.
That's
And then
great.
what I get everybody to do is to write their answers up on the flip chart. And most people are very humbled and very surprised at what people say to them, what reaction they get back.
Yeah.
We're very good at telling people what we're bad at or what we can't do. We're not very good at telling people what we are good at.
Yeah.
And we're also not very good at asking people, well, what do you like about me?
Yeah.
And listening
That's
to
great.
it, because we're all waiting for the but.
Right. Well, it's great. What I love about that, one of the things I talk about is, if you want to double your business, double your asks. If the person who asks the question controls the conversation, you can grow through questions. You can grow faster through questions. And that's a pretty vulnerable question. And I think, you take a good question, a little bit of humility and vulnerability, and a little bit of boldness, you can get some great, as in your example, some great growth. That's great.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And
Thanks,
then
Robin.
to expand upon this, John, I really think to give you a fuller answer to your question, I get people to look at some emotions that they experience on a day-to-day basis and look at what the message is behind the emotion, what what the best way to express that emotion is within the workplace, when to keep it in check and not to express it, and what's a constructive way of using the emotion, and what's a destructive way of using the emotion. So we then look at a number of different emotions: pride, guilt, shame, frustration, anger, happiness, exhilaration, sadness, just to name a few. And people really get a lot out of that exercise because we all experience emotions at work, and this is a nice opportunity for people to explore them at a deeper
Yeah,
level.
it's great. I love that, Robin. All right, let's do a quick speed round.
Yeah, great.
A book or a TED Talk or an article that's had the biggest impact on you, Robin?
You're going to be very, very surprised, John, and so will your listeners. I'm not going to come out with a business textbook. I've got it here. Pax the Pixie. Let me explain. Pax the Pixie. Let me explain. I have a grandson. He's just over a year old, and he loves this book. Absolutely loves it. It is a wonderful opportunity for me to engage with him. Now, when you read the story, 6 pages, but it's got some great lessons in life here. Pax is a pixie. Hello, Pax. Pax is very small with pointy ears. He can't do anything about that. That's who he is. He has to live with it. So he's a great little guy. Pax is a playful pixie and likes to joke around. He doesn't take life too seriously.
Yeah.
To take a nap, Pax sits in the tallest tree. So when he's tired, when he needs to replenish his energy, he gets in the tallest tree. And dancing with his friends is his favorite things to do. So he knows what he likes and he does a lot of it. Brilliant little book. And
That's great.
the idea why I mentioned it, John, to be serious, is we look at all these kids' books and we kind of dismiss them, but there are some wonderful lessons in life there. And what he does is he sits on my lap, snuggles up, and we go through that book 6 times a day. But it's just wonderful. He loves it because of the repetition. He loves it because of the joy of being with his granddad.
Yeah.
And he just likes the messages repeated over and over. Probably can't understand them, but
yeah,
he will
great.
do.
He will. I'm sure he does.
Yeah. I've got a serious answer for you. Let me give you another book. The Emotional Life of Your Brain by Richard J. Davidson. It is a wonderful book on the unique pattern of your brain and how it affects the way in which you think, feel, and live, and how you can actually go about changing them.
Wow, that's very good. I've never heard of that book. I'm going to check it out, Robin. Thanks so much.
It's a wonderful book.
Yeah, thank you. The best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
I think the best piece of wisdom that I've ever received is imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. Just get on with it.
Yeah, I like that. And finish your sentence. Last question. Finish your sentence. One thing everybody can do every single day for 1 minute to tap into their own emotional intelligence is?
To understand how they're emotionally feeling at that minute break, just to say, this is what is underlying the way in which I'm feeling, and this is driving my thinking at the moment.
Yeah, I love it. Robin, this was great. I appreciate your insights on emotional intelligence, and I appreciate you being on the podcast. Tell everybody who your ideal clients are and how they can connect with you.
Well, this is an interesting question that marketeers ask of me all the time. I don't know, John. It is anybody who is interested in performing better at work, at home, or in their relationships. Anybody who wants to learn more about emotional intelligence.
Great. Think Community. Thank you, Robin. Think Community. We talk a lot on this show about being successful and getting unstuck. And I love having guests on the show that are consistent with my mission of getting you unstuck. And Robin, you shared a ton of great stuff. And one thing I'm going to extract for everybody is just something you said. You said a lot of great things, but emotional intelligence is just combining what you're thinking and feeling to make a good decision. And, that formula may be a little bit different for everybody, but the sooner we all figure out what ours is in multiple, in different situations, the better things will be. So Robin, I appreciate you, sharing your wisdom. Tell everybody where your website or, email or phone number where they can connect with you.
My website is www.ei4change.com. That's EI number 4 change.com. Go and have a dig around. There are free resources. There's a free course. There are podcasts. Your podcast will be up there at some point, John. And the other thing that people might like is I have a webzine called EI Matters, ei-matters.com. And we get new articles every day to refresh the webzine and make it really, really relevant. This month's focus, May 2023, is on recruitment and emotional intelligence.
Great.
So the focus changes every month. Go along, it's free. Just go along and enjoy it.
All right, Robin, thank you. And Think Community, I can be reached at jondwoskin.com. Robin, this was great. I appreciate you being on the show. Thanks so much. And have a great night. I think it's probably 7:20 where you are ish.
No, 5:30. That'll do.
Oh, 5:30. Okay, not so bad. All right, I'm wrong. All right, Robin. Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody.